You could feel it before anyone said a word out loud. That small, quiet shift that happens on Good Morning Britain whenever a guest's life story turns into something more personal than the headline suggests. Bradley Walsh had just turned 66, and somehow, talking about that single number felt heavier than anyone expected. On the surface, it should have been simple. A national treasure marking another birthday. The man who has spent nearly 2 decades making millions of households laugh from behind the chase podium, now sitting there as the subject of the story rather than the one telling it. But something about watching Bradley Walsh discussed in terms of age, rather than ratings, rather than catchphrases, seemed to catch viewers off guard. Maybe it's because we don't usually think of Bradley Walsh as getting older. We think of him as a fixture. Constant. The voice that's been in our living rooms during tea time for so long that imagining him without that microphone almost feels strange. So when the conversation turned toward his life away from the cameras, the quieter version of Bradley, the one who isn't performing for an audience, there was a noticeable change in tone. Less showbiz. More human. Viewers online picked up on it almost immediately. Comments started appearing under clips within minutes, many of them less about jokes and more about reflection. People talking about growing up watching him. People remembering specific moments from his career that suddenly felt nostalgic in a way they hadn't before. It's a strange thing, watching someone age in real time across decades of television, and there's something quietly emotional about realizing the public has grown up alongside him. What made the segment land the way it did wasn't really the facts being shared. It wasn't really about birth dates or career timelines. It was the framing. The presenters leaned into something more reflective, talking about Walsh's life off-screen, his quieter side, the family moments that rarely make it into the highlight reels. And that's where the emotional weight crept in. Because for someone so consistently associated with energy, charm, and quick wit on camera, hearing about the calmer, more private side of his life created a kind of contrast that audiences clearly weren't ready for. There was a moment, subtle, easy to miss if you weren't paying attention, where the tone dipped just slightly. Not sad exactly. More thoughtful. The kind of pause that happens when a conversation accidentally becomes more sincere than planned. It almost felt like the show itself recognized it was treading into something more meaningful than a typical birthday mention, and for a few seconds, the studio energy softened to match it. That's often the most interesting part of watching morning television unfold. It's rarely the big dramatic moments that stay with people. It's the small shifts. The flicker of something real breaking through the usual rhythm of scripted segments and rehearsed transitions. And turning 66 on national television, even briefly, seemed to do exactly that for Bradley Walsh. Social media reaction afterward leaned heavily toward affection rather than commentary on age itself. Many viewers expressed genuine warmth, describing him as someone who feels like part of the family despite never having met him personally, which says something about the strange intimacy television creates over time. Some people watching interpreted the segment as a quiet reminder of how much of our own lives have unfolded alongside his career, episode by episode, without us really noticing the years passing. It's easy to forget, watching someone so naturally funny and effortlessly charming on screen, that there's an entire private existence happening behind it. A home life. A family. Years of effort that built the public persona we casually flip on every afternoon. The Good Morning Britain segment didn't dramatically reveal anything shocking, nothing scandalous, nothing tense, but it did something arguably more powerful. It humanized him in a way that ordinary interviews about ratings or upcoming shows rarely manage to do. And maybe that's exactly why this particular moment stuck with people longer than expected. Not because of what was said, but because of what it quietly represented. A reminder that the people who entertain us are also just living their lives, getting older, the same as everyone watching. So what did you notice while watching it? Did it feel like a simple birthday mention to you? Or did something about the tone feel a little more reflective than usual? Maybe what stayed with viewers wasn't the number 66 itself, but everything it quietly brought to the surface.